Hello and welcome to Fonterra's annual results announcement for 2013. I'm Grant Walker. With me here today to talk about it, Fonterra Chairman John Wilson, CEO Teo Spearings and Chairman of the Shareholders Council Ian Brown. But before we look at results, John, let's go straight to that big announcement last night.
Yes, Grant, great news last night. We were able to announce a 50-cent lift in our milk price to $8.30.
What's driving this great news?
Yeah, this lift reflects the tight supply-demand balance globally. We've got very strong demand out of Asia and in particular China. We are seeing volatility though, all of us as farmers know that, but Grant, the good thing is that this is a significant lift up in prices and we are expecting now that forecast of $8.30 is our best estimate.
Let's talk about, Teo, if we can, what impact this will have on earnings.
Like John is saying, of course it's good when prices go up, especially for our farmers, but there's always a timing element where you will have margin pressure in your branded business, and there is a difference between earnings in milk powder and other products like cheese and caseinades. And those, what we call stream returns, will go against us, and the margins in our branded business will be temporarily under pressure.
All right, a good start to the year. Let's now turn to the annual results. Well, of course, the year started well, and then bang, came the drought. Now, is there anything that you're going to talk about on top of what we've just talked about that's going to help those farmers that were impacted?
Look, the drought had a big impact, biggest drought in 70 years. In the second half of the year, our milk production was down 9% on the year before. The reality is that last night's announcement of the $8.30, I'm sure, means that our farmers' cash flow budgets are looking a lot stronger as they look forward. There's no doubt about that. But importantly, the announcement for the year that we've just finished is a final milk price of $5.84 and a dividend of 32 cents. So total for a 100% shared up farmer is $6.16, which is an improvement on what we had budgeted at the start of the season.
Well, Ian, the drought hit farmers pretty hard. This must be welcome news.
Yes, this is good news, Grant, for farmers. I mean, barely 6 months ago, we were in the midst of that drought that John alluded to, hardest drought in 70 years, which really had the impact on our farmers of not only lowering their income, but also increasing their costs in terms of feed bills. So the news of the increase in payout going forward, the good spring that we're currently experiencing is really welcome news and really does start to lift our farmers' morale.
John, what are some of the other highlights of today's announcement?
Look, Grant, a solid year. So our net profit after tax, $736 million. That is up 18% on last year. We've also got our earnings per share, which are up 7% on last year at 44 cents per share, and a very strong balance sheet at just under 40% debt to debt plus equity. So the cooperative is in a very strong position.
Teo, from a business perspective, how has the co-op performed in relation to the volume and value target set as part of the strategy?
Grant, as you know, volume value is really core for our strategy. We had a very good first half when it comes to volume and value, but due to the drought, we really fell back in volume terms. And because of pressure on the results in New Zealand milk, when the milk price went up, our value is also under pressure. So in the end, in volume terms only up 1% and EBIT terms down 2%, but net profit after tax, what John said, 18% up. So that's good.
Well, there's been a lot of effort around controlling costs. So how successful have you been?
Now, we announced last year a target of 60 million. And I'm very happy to announce that we went way over 100 million cost savings last year. But because there was pressure on the top line and our margins, we needed those cost savings as well. So more than 100 million cost savings and more than 500 million working capital reduction. And therefore we could step up our advance rate to farmers halfway the year, which was very important when we were in the middle of the drought.
Let's now take a look at the four main business units.
Yep.
Let's start with NZ Milk Products.
New Zealand Milk Products, very strong first half, really, both in terms of volume and value again, but second half under a lot of pressure. So in the end was only up 1% in terms of volume, and in terms of value, almost unbelievable that we were showing 500 million result in the first half and less than 100 million in the second half. Because whole milk powder went up so fast and milk price went up so fast. So there you come into the timing element, and the stream returns were really in disadvantage for us.
Things, though, a little bit tougher back home with the New Zealand Australia business.
It's really two stories around this. In New Zealand, we have done an outstanding performance. It's not a big market, but we have grown our volume share and we have grown value. In Australia, much more pressure. I mean, the last 4 years, we have seen pressure on our volumes. This year, we really have taken a big effort to really clean up the business, make sure that we have a limited number of brands, that we take cost out of the value chain, and that we are able to compete in that very tough environment where on one side a co-op is really driving milk price, and on the other side there's very strong retailers really driving as much cost out of the chain, that value increases. So Australia, very difficult, but I have a lot of confidence that with what we have done this year, that we're coming at the start line of this season in very good shape.
What do you think drove the good performance in Asia, Africa, Middle East?
Those markets, what John said it before, I mean, those markets are really, demand is so strong, so volume growth is strong. We saw a double-digit 11% volume growth, so very good. And people are really paying and seeing the value of dairy products, so that's why value share or value growth is also very strong.
And a strong performance in Latin America as well.
It's really driven by Soprole, our Chilean business. We own 99.9%, so we can be very happy with that. Very good volume growth, very strong value growth. We had a little bit of pressure in Brazil and Venezuela, where we have our joint venture with Nestlé. Some pressure there, but extremely good performance by Chile.
John, farmers took the hit on the drought, and then, of course, came the whey protein concentrate precautionary recall. Yep. What effect did that have on the co-op?
Oh, look, of course it's had an impact on the cooperative grant. We've seen a lot of anxiety, obviously, for our farmers as we've worked through this. But there is no doubt in our own minds now, when we look back, that Fonterra has done the right thing here. It's interesting. Just last week, as a board, we're up in China. What's interesting here, got a sophisticated market, understand what Fonterra did, and largely we're recognised as doing the right thing. Very comforting for the board, very comforting for Tao and the management team when you're actually in the market and seeing the decisions that consumers are making and the message that we've been given from the Chinese government that Fonterra did do the right thing.
Let's talk about the reviews. How are they going?
Well, in no way are we downplaying what has occurred. So yes, we've got the confidence in the global dairy markets, and we've talked about that already today. What's very important for us is that we take the learnings from what occurred. So the board review has been progressing very well. It is probably still 1 month away or so from completion. As soon as the board review is complete and the board have contemplated that review, we will have another Sky broadcast just like this one, and we will be able to announce to farmers what our findings are, what our learnings are, and what we're taking forward. But importantly, of course, Tao and his team are just getting on with business on the back end of the operational review, which Tao has already talked about.
Well, let's talk to you briefly then about the reviews. What have you learnt so far about the overall recall?
We have been talking about the 4 R's. So we did the recall, we did a review, an operational review, and what John is saying, there's more reviews ongoing, which are wider in scope. But we had, from our review, we had definitely some learnings about our systems, and especially traceability, escalation of these kind of issues. And what we have learned is that we are world-class in food safety and quality, but we can even lift our game to a higher level. So that's the second R, but in the meantime, we are in a recovery mode. That's market access to China, but also rebuilding our reputation. So in our way forward, all our learnings will be very clearly on our radar screen. This is what we have to do to really lift the standard to a higher level.
It's obvious that there is a lot to do. How do you, or does this all make it difficult to keep your eye on the business?
No, it definitely requires a lot of effort from people because basically you have two streams in parallel, right? We are talking today about the annual results. That's the business. And in the business, we have said back to basics. We have to make sure that our primary process is under control, yeah, and that people are focused on that. Next to that, you want to, based on your learnings, you want to lift, yeah, your standards, but also the culture to the highest in class in the world when it comes to food safety and quality. So that's a second stream, so to speak, which requires quite a big effort from people. So it's your normal work, and on top of that, you have to lift the bar. Speaking of people, you have new people joining the team to drive us. There's new people. Lucas Paravicini, our new CFO, is in 2 weeks. And he already walks around with confidence that he knows the business inside out, and he does actually. Jacqueline Cho is going to join us in the beginning of October. And we have an excellent new person, Judith Swales in Australia, where we have very difficult situation in the Australian context, what I explained before. But she's really holding a very tight course going forward. Ian, we've heard the good news from last night's announcement for farmers. How do you think they're going to view the past year's results?
Grant, I think they'll look at last year and they will look at the drought, and what farmers will see is the absolute effect that the weather in New Zealand has not only on their on-farm business but also on Fonterra, you know, their manufacturing and processing arm of their business, and the effects that comes back to the farm. So I think they'll be comfortable with the results. I think, you know, they will certainly read them and put that into context. I think the other part is that they will be buoyed by the forecast for next season and the extra opportunities that will create for them in terms of cash flows on farm.
It's been a tough year for farmers. It's been a busy year for councillors. What have been some of the other highlights for the council from your point of view? Okay,
well, the council at the moment is we're going to have 8 new councillors next year after the AGM. We're increasing the number of councillors in the South Island wards to reflect the geographical shift of farmers within New Zealand. And also we are lifting the role of council in terms of engagement with regional councils to better represent farmers in the sustainability space.
And John, how are you seeing things in the year ahead?
Oh, of course, this lift is $8.30 milk price, which reflects the strong prices globally. I think that is the key story here at the moment, and we'll be watching that very carefully. As Teo touched on, whole milk powder prices are very strong. That certainly does have an impact on our, what we call our stream returns, so our product mix decisions that we make. It has an impact on our food service business, on our consumer business. So we're watching that very carefully. And so for farmers, that will be thinking about as far as our cash payout to farmers. Now we're at the moment forecasting $8.30 plus the 32 cents. We're quite comfortable to stick with the 32 cents at the moment. At the end of the day, we've got a very strong balance sheet. We've got strong cash flows to support that 32 cents. So while, as Teo touched on, the reality is it is going to be volatile. It is very difficult to predict right now, but we're comfortable with that $8.62 forecast cash payout.
So overall, you'd say a good result then?
Yes, a good result, Grant. A good result at $6.16, final cash payout for the year that's just gone. Certainly up on what we had forecast at the start of the year. Challenging year, but a pretty solid result at the end of the day. And of course, a really strong forecast for this year at $8.30. Look, we're heading into the peak right now. We've had some devastating weather over the country in the last week. I mean, the damage in the South Island to irrigation infrastructure and farms without power has been significant. We've had an electrical storm across the Waikato. One of my friends, local farmers, had cows killed with electrocution. So look, we've got real challenges going on with the weather, but I think farmers should be in good shape with the forecast announcement around $8.30, a lot of volatility. We're really looking forward to getting out and talking to farmers next week. The board, senior management will be out. We've got about 45 meetings across the country. So please have a look at Fence Post, catch up on where your local meeting is, and we look forward to catching up with you then.
Gentlemen, thank you.